Hi, folks. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for tuning in today. Today, I just want to wrap up on Income Engine 2, that being business, and how to structure that to create wealth using leverage. But before I do that, I just want to clarify something very quickly that these videos that I'm doing are specifically built around the wealth architecture framework. So, I'm talking to someone who wants to understand how to increase their income for the sole purpose of generating wealth, being financially free. The point I'm trying to make is that when I talk about business, I'm specifically talking to people who want to create a business that they will then scale. So I'm specifically talking to people who want to create a scalable business with the aim of one day selling that business. Or, I mean, if it's successful, why would you even sell it? But you want to grow this thing and really generate a lot of revenue, because there's a lot of different types of businesses, and I know a lot of people who run very successful businesses, but they have no desire to scale it. It's purely built around their lifestyle, providing a sustainable income for their lifestyle, and they're happy to do that. It can be a solopreneur, it could be a family business, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I just want to make that point up front. But when I discuss these videos, when I make these videos, I'm specifically talking to someone who wants to get into entrepreneurship because they want a scalable business that will create some serious wealth, whether that's to sell the asset down the line, maybe one day go public, whatever the future might bring. So I just want to give that little bit of context so you understand what it is that I'm talking about. All right, let's get into it. So, Income Engine 2, business, how to structure a business, how to use leverage. I talked briefly yesterday about the dangers of entrepreneurship and how a lot of people go into it and then end up feeling trapped, because entrepreneurship is often sold as freedom, but for most people, it becomes a more demanding form of employment. So instead of creating a scalable business, they just create a demanding job for themselves. So longer hours, more responsibility, more pressure, and often no real wealth. And when I say no real wealth, again, I'm not saying your business is not generating revenue and you're unable to pay the bills. I'm talking about a business that year on year is accelerating its revenue growth and is scaling. So that's what I mean when I say no real wealth. I'm not talking about a business that is not generating revenue. I'm talking about a business that is unable to scale its revenue. That's what I mean by no real wealth. So the myth is we're told to start a business, be your own boss, escape the 9 to 5, but very few people are told what actually happens next. Because most people don't escape the system, they just rebuild it around them. And that's the trap. Because now they are the operator, the decision maker, the problem solver, the safety net. The tea lady and the CEO are all in one. And everything depends on them. They are essentially the business. And that is what creates the dangerous illusion. You have control but no freedom. You have ownership but no leverage. You have income but no scalability. And the core problem you're facing here is not the business itself, it's how the business was built. The problem is not the business, it's how the business is built. Most businesses are designed around the owner's time, the owner's effort, the owner's constant involvement. If you remove the owner, the business slows down or it comes to a complete stop. And that's not wealth, that's dependency. And that's what I mean. You haven't built a business, you've just created a job for yourself. So, how do we reframe that? You reframe it by understanding the goal. People who build businesses around the owner, they misunderstood the goal. The goal was misunderstood. The goal was never start a business. The real goal is build something that works without you. So I'll repeat that. The goal, when we're talking about business and leverage and wealth creation, the goal was never start a business. The goal is build something that works without you. Because in wealth creation, leverage is the goal, scalability is the goal. So the question then becomes, how do you actually build a business that creates wealth? The first thing you gotta do is you gotta start with value that can repeat. So what am I talking about? Most people build businesses around once-off effort. Wealth requires repeatable value. So what you need to ask yourself is, can this be delivered consistently without reinventing the process each time? Is what I'm doing, can it be delivered consistently without reinventing the process each time? Is there actually a process? Because if the answer is no, that means whatever you're doing won't scale. You can't build a process around that because it cannot be delivered consistently without reinventing the process each time, without you consistently being involved. The second thing you need to look at if the goal is building a scalable business is you need to systemize before you scale. So don't try to grow what isn't structured. The first thing you need to do is document how the work is done, simplify the steps, remove any unnecessary complexity, and if it cannot be explained simply, it cannot be scaled. Essentially, if you can't document the process, it cannot. If you can't document it and explain it to someone else, that means you can't scale the process. You can't actually design the process. Number three, which is for me probably the most important, is when you're designing your business, you need to design it and think about separating yourself from the execution. How do I build a business that I can one day remove myself from? And okay, this is a tricky one because obviously every business needs a CEO. You need someone at the top who's responsible for the decisions, and I fully understand that. And when I say this, perhaps it's not right to say you completely remove yourself, but you essentially want to get to a point where the business can run without you, or another way to frame that, it can run with very minimal contact from you, if I'm making sense. So, and this is the hardest shift for many entrepreneurs. How do you move from doing the work to designing how the work gets done? So how do you actually do that process? The first thing is, whatever you're doing in your business, start small. Look at what you're doing and say, what task can I delegate? Delegate one task. And if that works, delegate one process. If that works, delegate one outcome. The goal when you're restructuring your business for scalability is not immediate freedom. This is going to take time. This is not something that's going to take a week or two. It's going to take you a few years, and depending on your business, it might take a few decades, but it's worth it. The goal is not immediate freedom. The goal is gradual independence from operations. That's what you want to eventually get to, where you can remove yourself from the business. Make sure that when you're building the business, you build around roles and you don't build around yourself. So what do I mean by that? Most businesses are built around the founder. Wealth building businesses are built around roles. So ask yourself, if I had to replace myself, what would this role require? Then design for that role. Now the business becomes transferable. It's something you can scale, it's something you can sell in the future. So don't design around what do I want? Don't design around yourself. Design about the role and the roles that need to be played in the business. If I had to replace myself, what would this role require? Sorry. Number 5 is focus on the leverage points. So not all work is equal. Some actions create disproportionate results, and that's where you really need to put your best effort. What are the things that, if systemized, really get this business going, really generate revenue? Because some actions create disproportionate results. So focus on decisions that affect many outcomes, improvements that scale across customers, and systems that repeat automatically. This is where the leverage lives. And then periodically just test for independence. In this process, could be, once a year, once every 2 years, you decide what you're comfortable with. Do a simple test. Step away from the business for 30 days, step away for a month, and see what happens. Does the business continue or does it pause? So, are you still vital to the operations of this business, or can it run without you? So step away for 30 days and see what happens. Does it continue or does it pause? Your answer tells you, that answer will tell you what it is. What is it that you own? Do you own an asset or a responsibility? Revenue is not wealth. I just want to end there. Revenue is not wealth. Ownership of systems that produce value without you is. Okay, so when you're talking about scalability, wealth creation, business, we're not talking about is your business generating revenue. We're saying, do you own a system that produces value without you? That is the aim. If your business needs you every day to survive, you don't own a business, you own a job with expenses. If your business cannot run without you, it's not an asset, it's a responsibility. So you remember we started with skill, income engine 1, and that creates value. Sorry. Income engine 2, which is business, multiplies that value. And now we're going to go to income engine 3, which is capital, because multiplication is not enough. Because what you build must still compound. So that probably doesn't make sense at this point, but it will make more sense in the upcoming videos where I start tackling income engine 3, and that is capital, where wealth begins to compound. So what do you do? So if your business is scaling up and you're generating revenue and you have all this money, what do you start doing with that? How do you compound it, and how do you start really building something formidable? Thank you for listening. I know today was a bit of a long one, but I hope it really helps and it provides some value. And I'll see you tomorrow where we start income engine 3, discussing capital and how to compound that. Have a great day.